That story, Jerry, about Iwao and Alice, about his ambidextrous.
Iwo, when we'd have a lull in our work sometimes, Iwo would like take a break and he would start drawing realistically, doing like life drawings and beautiful stuff. He'd do it with his left hand because he was right-handed.
Well, that particular incident that Tony is talking about, Alex is bragging about how he's able to do storyboards with both hands and all that. But Iwo was sitting back there in his desk, quietly listening. Then he reaches up and pulls on a piece of paper, and then with his left hand, he draws this beautiful drawing of a reclining lady, and realistic. And I saw it. And then he just finished, and then he didn't even say, "Look what I did left-handed."
Right.
He just threw it in the trash. So I waited for the opportune time, and I tiptoed over to his trash and fished it out. No coffee stains, no cigarette ashes.
Yeah.
Everything was clean. I took it home, I framed it, and it's still on my wall.
Oh, that's great. Wow.
The only thing lacking is his autograph on the drawing.
Oh, well. But you still have that memory of him doing
Yes.
that. So what is he most famous for? Because there's some students that don't know the names that you're popping out there. So
Okay, we're going to have to kind of go back.
Yeah.
Now, being Japanese American, as you probably know the history, during World War II,
Right.
we were all incarcerated.
Right.
And Iwo happened to be high school age. He just graduated high school, and he was ready to go on to college. And then his whole education was interrupted.
Right.
And so he was hauled off to this camp in California called Manzanar. And he spent his 3 years there. And as the war was coming to a close, he says, "What the heck am I going to do? I don't have a college education, and we're broke. We don't know, how to start up again." There was a couple of people in camp that Japanese American guys that actually worked in the animation business. So they knew how well Iwo drew. So they encouraged him to just go out and get a couple of 10-cent notebooks and just fill it up with sketches and cartoons and whatever he observed, Then the war came to an end. And so he took the 2 notebooks and submitted it to Disney Studio. Boom. He was hired. No, concerns about his ethnicity and whatever. They just saw his portfolio and says, "This guy's great. Let's get him started." So he was the first Japanese American to be hired in a mainstream studio like Disney. I was at that time, 9 years later, I came down from San Francisco, and I was attending Chouinard's Art Institute. But on a whim, I thought, well, I would like to see the inside of the Disney studio. So I called, made an appointment, and with my student portfolio, I went to the studio. But I felt rather intimidated because I didn't know how, this is Hollywood and virtually an all-white studio, and I didn't really know what to expect. But my only objective that time was I wanted to see the inside of the Disney studio. So when I was granted interview, I thought, this is great. But unbeknownst to me, when I was up in personnel, and the personnel manager got on the intercom and says, "Well, Mr. Ito's here for his interview." 2 guys walked into the room, and one guy, a Caucasian guy, was the production manager. But following behind him, like one of those Tex Avery cartoons, was this little guy with walked in, and I thought, God, he's Asian, Then I was introduced to him as Iwao Takamoto, and oh my goodness, he's Japanese American, you know. And so, but later, we became fast friends, especially after he finally left Disney and came over to Hanna-Barbera. And of course, he started there just like Jerry and I, sitting in the bullpen as a layout man, but eventually his talents were recognized and appreciated by Joe Barbera and all the creative people. And he eventually became a vice president of Hanna-Barbera. And whenever Hanna-Barbera Studio was sold to another entity, Taft Broadcasting and whatever else, and then finally it ended up Warner Brothers having Hanna-Barbera, properties. The contract read that Hanna-Barbera Studio is sold, and the only personnel that will be part of that sale would be Iwao Takamoto. So he was a package of Hanna-Barbera.
Wow.
And so Jerry had a luncheon date with him on a Monday, but he got a call from Barbara, which was Iwo's wife, and says he's over at Cedars-Sinai, and then he passed away.
Yeah, it was about the fourth time he was there because he had the heart trouble.
Yeah.
But he always pulled out okay. And that was awful. I remember driving over there, and when I pulled into the parking lot, my cell phone rang. It was my wife. I'll never forget the words. She said, "You're too late.
Oh.
He's gone."
That's
Didn't
so
expect
sad.
that at all.
Yeah, right.
What a talent.
Now, when Iwo started at Disney way back then, his work was, recognized like immediately, and so all the 9 men, they wanted Iwo to key their work.
Wow.
Especially female characters. And so like on the film Tony worked on Sleeping Beauty, he was keying all of the auroras. And then on Lady and the Tramp, he was keying all the close-ups of Lady. And then on Alice in Wonderland, Cinderella, same thing. Finally, he had it up to here because he was so typecasted, he couldn't get beyond being a good, competent assistant animator. And he wanted to do, well, I guess they threw him some more and did a little animation, but never got screen credit at Disney Studio. So finally, when he came over to Hanna-Barbera, which was the only other studio he worked for,
That's
and
right.
he finally found his place in the sun.